skipper. Hello, navigator. Half a minute to go. Okay, thanks very much. Keep weaving, Tim. There's quite a lot of nice stuff coming up as well, falling off a bit low.
Hi, I'm Rick and welcome back to another one of my videos. I'm here at Walton Park in Sale, the site of where a Wellington bomber crashed, killing 2 of its brave Australian aircrew. I visited their graves earlier on today and it will feature a little bit later on in the video. A lot of the historical information I use comes from a local historian called George Cogswell. He's wrote a lot of information about Sale and beyond, and I'll leave a link at the end of the video if anyone wants to buy any of his works. Good evening, George. What can you tell us about the events leading up to this air accident?
Well, this is Walton Park in Sale. Not a famous place other than this accident or disaster accident. To set the scene, this what we call the Walton Park Wimpy now, after J. Wellington Wimpy. It's a Popeye cartoon. J. Wellington Wimpy. He enjoyed all the Wimpies, so it's absolutely nothing to do with McDonald's or anything like that. So the plane, just before midnight on the 3rd of August 1943, they were flying over Manchester. They were coming through a gate of searchlights, and give them practice at dodging searchlights, and give the searchlight operators the chance to track aircraft. Obviously, nobody was firing at them. They were over Manchester, about 13,000 feet, and the aircraft, the port engine packed up. Apparently the big end went, to give it simplicity, and that would have been okay. They could have got back to RAF Lichfield, where they took off from, but soon after that the starboard engine started playing up and they're losing power, and from then on the aircraft was doomed. So they coming out of Manchester, they got as far as Sale, and they did a circle. According to one of the eyewitnesses, they actually circled this area first before they actually landed, and they came down, they clipped a tree, and then they clipped a telegraph pole, which is actually lower than the roofs of the houses that they managed to pass over. And Freddie Matthews, the pilot, somehow managed very skillfully, obviously, to get the aircraft in its dying moments over the top of this roof of number 5 and 7 Walton Road. And but as he did so, it clipped, the starboard wing clipped the chimney and did a bit of damage to the roof of those properties, but also damaged the starboard wing and caused a fuel leakage as the fuel tanks were in the wings. From then on, it came down quite quickly, losing fuel, losing speed, losing height, and coming over what is now the Norweb substation, which wasn't there then. This was a much larger field in those days, because there was, the trees weren't there, the substation wasn't there, the miniature railway that we have now wasn't there. The sports centre was, because that was a strategic food store during the war, built during the war to store emergency food supplies. So it came down, it crashed about where we are standing now, and burst into flames. There is a report that it came down in flames, but others reports said no, that's definitely not true. I spoke to one of the witnesses of the event. He said no, it only burst into flames on landing. Everyone rushed out of their houses to come and rescue the air crew. Very brave locals coming to the rescue. They were obviously concerned that there weren't bombs on board, but there was 303 ammunition, machine gun ammunition on board. So in the course of the fire there were bullets flying around everywhere, so it was quite an inhospitable place to be inside that aircraft. The first person that the rescuers came across was Keith Forbes. He was the wireless operator. He was completely unconscious by then. He's the chap who I managed to speak to. He was the only one who survived the war, but he was so badly wounded at the time in this incident that he never flew operationally again. So he was the first one to be literally dragged out. He had a broken leg, a badly broken ankle, and he was taken out unconscious. The other one was, of course, Freddie, the pilot. And the bomb aimer, who was laid prone in the front of the aircraft. And he was in the most vulnerable position of anybody. And I'm sure that he must have helped to guide the pilot down into this area, which was then allotments, vegetable allotments. It wasn't a football pitch then.
What gets me, George, is the age of these boys, and thousands of miles from their home, and never to return to Australia. It would have been devastating for the families.
It was devastating for the families, obviously, but they weren't alone. They were, I mean, English Bomber Command lost 55,000 men. I think the Australians lost about 11,000 men in Bomber Command. So it was a dreadful time for everybody. But yes, I spoke to a couple of the widows and corresponded with family members back in 1993, which is when I stumbled across this crash. I had no knowledge of it before then, and stumbled across it, so I set about researching it, which is perhaps just as well I did at the time, because unfortunately all those I were able to correspond with and to speak to are sadly no longer with us. Yeah, the aircraft came over the houses at the back of those trees. Came down very low, clipped the roofs of those houses there, that it came down, spilling fuel oil as it came from its starboard wing, and crashed somewhere about where that football pitch goal post is there, between the two goal posts. The tail end of it broke off and skidded along the length of the park, leaving poor Titch McCarthy hanging from his belt, but at least he was out of the fire. He wasn't. He didn't receive any burns.
Thank you, George. I'd like to go over to where the memorial that you've tirelessly campaigned, and rightly so, to have put here. Do you mind showing us all where that spot would be?
Yeah, fine. Yeah.
What did you do to make this happen? It's been a long time in the making.
You're quite right. As I said, I first stumbled across this in 1993 as I still have an interest in the home front, anything to do with the old ARP and gas masks, tin hats, that type of thing, because I had a little museum here in Sale at one time, which is sadly long gone. So I thought about it then, but of course it was a matter of finance. It's not an easy thing to organise a memorial like this. It's quite expensive, so we had to raise some cash for it. And it's something I've just thought about long and hard, and I keep thinking I must do it, and well, it's going to happen now. So 21st of September, Wednesday, 11 AM, all being well. Group Captain Adrian Masso is from the Australian Air Defence, is going to unveil it for us. Mayor of Trafford will be here to represent the people of Trafford.
And who will be able to attend this historic event?
Anybody. It's a public open park. It's always quite a busy park. We're just opposite the Scout Hut here now, and there's a footpath which runs right the way through alongside the miniature railway, and the footpath the memorial will be about half a metre off this asphalt footpath, and alongside it, about 2 metres away, will be an interpretation board giving details of the crash and what led up to it, and the people and the airmen involved in it.
Perfect. On behalf of everyone, George, thank you for your tireless work and dedication in your efforts in making this happen. I'd also like to thank the Friends of Walton Park for your volunteering and work in keeping this park maintained and clean for the community to use and visit. Once again, George, thank you very much, and thank you for your time.
It's a pleasure.
George, I see you've wrote many works about the local area and the surrounding area. I'll leave a link for everyone in the end of this video so you can actually look at George's work or even potentially buy it. But George, what sorts of things have you wrote that the people of Sale and the surrounding area would need to know?
George Mottershead, the founder of Chester Zoo, Captain William Turner, who was the captain of the Lusitania, some of the military, nondescript military, not top ranking, few top ranking, some of the VCs, of course. There was 4 VCs that were connected to Trafford. There's 3 airmen connected to the Battle of Britain on Trafford. There's people in Altrincham, Chapel Street in Altrincham. There's some work I've done there. There's just that's just numerous little documents. Some are only a few pages long, you know.
No, thank you, George. I know I've used some of your work in some of my videos, so I want to give you a big thank you, and a big thank you for all the work that you do in the research. It's very methodical and very, very thorough. Looking at this military section of this cemetery, you can really see how the War Graves Commission really do look after our fallen heroes from across the Commonwealth, our friends in Europe and beyond. Let's go and find the final resting place of our Australian brothers in arms. This is the final resting place of Flight Sergeant Edward Claude Thompson, affectionately known by Snow. And you see at the bottom of the gravestone here, it said, "Loved by all who knew you, farewell Snow. Thank you for your service, my colonial cousin." This is the final resting place of Flight Sergeant Frederick James Matthews. He was the pilot of the aircraft that crashed on the 3rd of August 1943. As you can see there, he died on the 4th of August, so he must have died of his injuries. He was only aged 26, and he was already a husband and a loving father to a daughter called Beverly. God rest in peace, my Australian cousin. This is Flight Matthews' grave close up, and just down to was his friend Snow. He probably died shortly after the crash. Flight Sergeant Matthews, we fought on as he would do, but unfortunately lost his life the day after. Thank you for your service, my comrades. It's such a tranquil and quiet place. It's so neat. And the respect for the fallen here is exemplary.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning we will remember them.